All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. And this video is not for any monetary gain. It is explicitly for the reasons stipulated in the Copyright Act of 1976 under Section 107.
Sometimes justice doesn't fail quietly, it screams while 1,000 eyes watch in silence. On the morning of July 22, 1899, a white mob violently abducted 19-year-old Frank Embree from police custody. He was being transported to stand trial in Fayette, Missouri, for the alleged assault of a young white girl, a charge he firmly denied and one that was never proven. Frank had already spent a month in jail, waiting for his day in court. But that day never came. Instead, a crowd of over 1,000 white townspeople decided that the law was too slow, and they would carry out their version of justice. According to newspaper reports, the mob intercepted the officers, dragged Frank into a wagon, and took him to the location where the crime had supposedly occurred. There, in broad daylight, they stripped him naked, a deliberate attempt to degrade him. In front of the cheering crowd, they whipped him mercilessly, lash after lash, trying to force a confession. Frank Embree endured over 100 brutal lashes, his skin torn, his body drenched in blood. Still, he refused to admit to a crime he didn't commit. Eventually, the pain became unbearable. Frank screamed out, not to beg for his life, but to beg for death. He pleaded, "Just kill me, but stop the torture." With those final words, he gave them the confession they demanded. A confession extracted through terror and torment, not truth. Moments later, they hanged him from a tree, without trial, without mercy, and without justice. Photographs were taken of the event, showing the faces of many in the mob, faces clearly visible, but no one was ever arrested. Not a single man was held accountable. Frank Embree never had the chance to speak in a courtroom, but today we speak his name, not in whispers, but loud enough to echo through history. This is Untold Chapters, where we uncover the buried truths of history and give voice to the forgotten. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because the past only stays silent when we choose not to listen.
All right, Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone. Here to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, today is yet another installment of our camp series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. And today's topic comes from the EJI, which is the Equality Justice Initiative. All right, this site is a website is set up to records the history of the items that happened during the course of America's history for every calendar day of the year. All right, and today's topic is white mob lynches Frank Embree hours before trial in Fayette, Missouri. All right, so before we get into that, just want to get the opening scripture, Obadiah 10, 1 and 10.
Yep. Book of Obadiah 1 verse 10 says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. and thou shalt be cut off forever.
God, this is talking about Esau, Edom, who is the so-called white man, who is the wicked, according to Malachi 1 and 4. All right, and talking about his perpetual hatred, perpetual violence against Jacob, who again are your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, and right now his history is coming out on him 365, 24/7, and he's shamed about it, and now he's getting pissed about it. All right, because he doesn't want his history coming out. You can look at the president right now shutting down anything that talks about the history of slavery. He's doing that with the Smithsonian Museum, replacing all of those statues that were taken down, messing with any opportunity that so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans had to have a part in this society. Cutting down those programs, even though Jake is more than qualified for those items. Okay, and just a number of things. And one of the big things, as we've seen recently, lying on the scriptures, but we'll cover that in another video. But yeah, it's about his shame covering him right now. All of his history is being revealed unto the whole world, and everyone knows who the real criminal of this world is. You can point the finger at Jake all you want to. Yes, we have some wicked people among our nation. The Bible says that, but you are the wicked nation. All right. Psalms 14, Psalms 53 says there is none good among you, the wicked, none, not one. Care how nice you are. Those evil is bound to come out. Sirach 12 and 10 says, "Never I trust your enemy." All right, for as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Meaning that as much as iron is guaranteed to rust, you are guaranteed to be the wicked. All right, and that open the scripture goes on and says, "You will be cut off forever." Yeah, your time is up. All right. Before you are cut off forever out of existence, what you wanted to do to us, eliminate us off the planet, the Bible says that about you. All right, you're going to be cut off from existence, cut off forever. All right, but that's after you serve slavery twice as long and twice as hard. The same things that you did to us, except for the whack stuff. Like buck breaking, cutting babies out of the womb and stuff like that. It's going to be done to you. We're going to do it in righteousness according to the scriptures. All right, and don't think that's going to be an easy walk. As we are the image of the Most High. As the scriptures say, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power, the living God. So we're going to be executing on His behalf.
Precept.
Go ahead.
Obadiah verse 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head.
Yep. As it was done, it's going to be done to you. That's the whipping. What it said, we're going to have a rod of iron.
Precept.
Dash your children against the stones. Go ahead.
This is Ezekiel chapter 25 and verse 14. It says, "And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai."
And he says, by the hand of his people Israel. So we know that vengeance is coming once we're back as one nation again. Okay, one nation, and then as the scriptures say, we're a multitude like the stars. We cannot be counted. We cannot be numbered. So that's a whole lot of Israelites. Okay, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that's going to be on your ass 24/7. All right, 24/7, non-stop, except for the Shabbat. All right.
That was it.
Okay. All right. So, without further ado, we'll get into the article. And, once again, fair use as declared at the beginning of the video, according to the Copyright Act of 1976, as stipulated under Section 107. All right. So, beginning with the article. And once again, it's titled, as you see on the screen, White mob lynches Frank Embree hours before trial in Fayette, Missouri. It says, on the morning of July 22nd, 1899, a white mob abducted Frank Embree from officers transporting him to stand trial and lynched him in front of a crowd of over 1,000 people in Fayette, Missouri. About 1 month earlier, Frank Embree had been arrested and accused of sexual impropriety against a white girl. Typical stuff. All right. It says, though his trial was scheduled for July 22nd, the town's residents grew impatient and rather than allow Mr. Embree to stand trial, took matters into their own hands by lynching him. All right. It says, according to newspaper accounts, the mob attacked officers transporting Mr. Embree and seized him, loaded him into a wagon, and drove him to the site of the alleged crime. Once there, Mr. Embree's captors immediately tried to extract a confession by stripping him naked and whipping him in front of the assembled crowd, but he steadfastly maintained his innocence despite this abuse. After withstanding more than 100 lashes to his body, Mr. Embree began screaming and told the men that he would confess. Rather than plead for his life, Mr. Embree begged his attackers to stop the torture and kill him swiftly. Covered in blood from the whipping, with no courtroom or legal system in sight, Mr. Embree offered a confession to the waiting lynch mob and was immediately hanged from a tree. Man. Says, goes on, says, black people accused of crimes during this era were regularly subjected to beatings, torture, and threats of lynching in efforts to obtain a confession, and the results of those coercive attacks were later used to justify the lynchings that followed. In fact, without fair investigation or trial, the confession of a lynching victim was more reliable evidence of a fear than guilt. Though published photographs of Mr. Embree's lynchings clearly depict the faces of many of his assailants, no one was ever arrested or tried for his death.
Precept.
Go ahead.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thy hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. It says, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shall thou speak in a cause to decline after many to rest judgment. So, you know, it was a false accusation, and then of course it was they couldn't wait, like they always say, as far as to give due process, and they took matters into their own hands. And so this is again a thing in which the wicked, you know, we've always seen. You know, there's been an accusation, and then because of their bloodthirst, you know, they wanted to put harm on Jake, and then they had the power to do so. So they just, you know, it's just wild, man, because it's like the more and more we go into these, we see it countless times, day in and day out. You know, that they're accusing, false accusations. They get the outside media. You know, nowadays they get the media is what they're actually doing. You know, to put Jake out there as being like the criminals. So then they, you know, build this case of propaganda. So then they can cause harm to the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American man mainly in this society. So yeah, you go ahead, bro.
Okay, this is Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 7. It says, blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke. You see, and this is something that Esau, even the so-called white man, does not do, because ultimately his judgments are the calls that he makes are solely fueled off the perpetual hatred that he has for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, here it is. This dude, he got beat and lynched right before he even went to trial. And you know, he was forced to confess to something that he didn't do, but out of fear, and he wanted to torture the end and things of that nature. You know, within himself, he thought there was no other way but to make a confession. You see, and that's how Esau does, Jake. Because the Esau, they already know they want to kill Jake. You know, They just want to, in some way, justify what they're doing to Jake. You see, so they beat him, tortured him, and forced a confession out of him, man. You see? And once again, it all goes back to that perpetual hatred that Esau has for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man.
I got a precept. This is the book of Amos, chapter 1, verse 11. And it reads, Thus saith Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because thou didst pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. That's to this very day, going all the way back, to Esau, Genesis 27, between verses 38 and 41, where he said, the days of my father Isaac are at hand. He's going to slay his brother Jacob, and you slay Jacob, there's no 12 tribes of Israel. In the spirit, you can take that all the way back to Cain too. All right. It says he cast off all pity. He did pursue his brother with the sword. That's any killing instrument. The number one right now is the gun, okay? But then you have the water, the food, the air. He's doing the chemtrails, putting all the chemicals in the food, manipulating the fruits and vegetables. Tainting the air with these chemtrails. All right. All to get Jake, but this fool don't realize, he's getting his own people too. But that's the thing. A lot of them are collateral damage just to get rid of Jake. All right. He said he did cast off all pity. He had no mercy for Jake, none. This is the same playbook. This is our 145th video. The same playbook. Always a false accusation. When it turns out, a lot of times it was something that he did. Esau Edom, the so-called white man, did to that white woman, but he put it on the so-called black man. All right, something that he did, and Jake paid for it, just like what they're trying to do now. You see with this whole former leader of Turning Point USA, that governor was saying, I prayed 33 hours that it was somebody, and it turned out to somebody else, and it turned out to be one of us. So now they had no narrative. But as soon as that happened, what do? They go and attack 8 HBCUs.
Yeah.
Who had absolutely nothing to do with that. Yep. This is at a university in Utah, the whitest of the whitest states in the United States. Okay, all Mormon for the most part. Had absolutely nothing to do with that. But, through the spirit, like we say, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. When they said the Democrats, immediately in my mind, was that demographic breakdown on who voted for who. All right, you had like 92% of Jake women, and I want to say somewhere between 70 to 80, mid 80% of Jake men. All right, that's what they used. They didn't say another so-called white man. Okay, they were going after Jake when they said that. Had absolutely nothing to do with it. But that's the thing, and Jake better get ready, because they then showed you, who they want to blame, who they want to come after. Again, that's that perpetual hatred that we're talking about. And he kept it forever, and that forever is until we get into the kingdom. All right, we already tell you Revelation 12 and 12. He had a short time. He's going to come down with great wrath. All right.
Yeah. Like you were saying about the HBCUs. When I was on my way over here this morning, I had an article, a notification pop up on my phone, talking about how Trump withdrew funding from HBCUs.
Yeah.
So some way somehow, they throw Jake into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because it coming out that it was one of their own. they can't blame us, because when you hear that dude talking that video, he literally said that, you know, we wish we could have said it was Muslims or whoever.
Yeah, somebody from another country.
Yeah.
You talking about Utah Governor Spencer Cox.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was like, well, unfortunately, it was one of our own.
Yeah.
You know, so it goes to show you that Esau, he's always trying to find somebody to blame to justify his violence.
Mm-hmm.
You see, he don't take no kind of accountability.
If you look closely at that video, you had the current FBI director, Akash Patel. When he said that, his whole countenance changed. Like, damn, he talking about me. Yeah, he talking about you. They don't like anybody with none, but mostly Jake. You know.
Precept.
God.
This is the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 7. It says, "Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap."
Mm-hmm.
So the things in which the false accusations, a lot of the things in which they point the finger, they tend to be the ones who actually are doing the crime,
Mm-hmm.
who actually are the ones are at fault. So when they try to put a big magnifying glass on so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, of course, you know, like your brother brought out earlier, that yeah, we have wicked among those who do wickedly amongst our people. You know, 2/3 of our people.
God.
But at the same time, there's nobody who in this world, you know, have even tried to help us.
Right.
You know, it's actually been, they actually, like the scriptures say, help forward the afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then, you know, of course, go back to the Most High. You know, they said the accuser of the brethren. You know, to say, like, look at all these things that they're doing. Like the guy that supposedly, you know, allegedly now, you know, stabbed that
Ukrainian
the white
refugee.
Ukrainian.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing they did was, you know, looked at his history. 14 years back and forth, in and out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been locked up and stayed there.
Yeah.
Right. If he was, let's say, innocent and was let's say shot in the back, you know, or you know, killed or taken out by police, what they do with Jake? Oh, he was a criminal. He had a criminal record. They always going back to us being criminals, regardless of whether you were doing well in the community or you are, you know, you actually being evil. So they look at us entirely as criminals.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So again, that's the justification for whatever they decide to do to us. You know. But again, they're gonna reap because they sow that out there. All this stuff is gonna come back upon them. You know, in the end, Yahweh Shai is gonna have, you know, his, you know, vengeance is his. You know, for all the things that they've done unto our people. And it says, "For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption." So, and then it says, "And though he that soweth to the spirit shall of the spirit reap life everlasting." So, you know, we bring that out because there's a clear indication of those who are, you know, are of the Most High, and those who are of the flesh and doing wicked and evil in the world. You know, starting with the so-called white man, and, you know, 2/3 of our people as well, those who side with them, you know, as far as the other nations.
I was going to say, to your point, how they do us. Remember that kid fell into that gorilla pit in the zoo? What was his name? Karumba or something like that? What was that gorilla's name?
Oh, Harambe.
Harambe, yeah. Anyway, they dug into the history of the mother and father, pulled up all their records of what they had done in the past. And it was a simple accident where a kid fell in there, you know. You know, going to, you know, his record. That's what they do. You know, well, he had to sit in the corner in kindergarten, you know, with his face to the wall. You know, just to really, really drive home that, you know, we are a misguided, reckless people. All right? But that's not the case, because the elect have Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. This is the precept I had to back you up. One of your favorites you like to bring out. This is Proverbs chapter 26, verse 27, and it reads, "Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him." So the things that you have in store for us, you know, it's going to come back on you, Esau. You know, it's going to come back on you. All right, and yeah, you have to give an account for everything. This little system y'all got now with the former director of Turning Point, you know, screenshotting, reporting, you know, emails, calling people's jobs because they have an opinion about stuff he said, you know, stuff he said, and trying to get people fired. You seeing people from American Airlines, Office Depot, getting fired because of something that they said. But he's going around saying stuff about us. You're gonna pay for that. You're gonna have to give an account for everything that you've done. All right.
All right.
So go ahead.
This is Joel chapter 3, starting at verse 19. It says, "Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land." See, so ultimately, the Lord, all of Esau's sins have reached the heavens, and the Lord has not forgotten what ultimately you've done unto His chosen people. You know, all the violence and all the evil that you committed against the children of Israel is ultimately going to result in this place, Babylon the Great, aka America, being destroyed, all right, and you going into slavery. And then when you're done serving out your servitude, all right, you're going to be destroyed as a nation. Say, verse 20, "But Judah shall dwell forever." It says, "But Judah shall dwell forever, in Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. For the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai dwells in Zion." And we know the scriptures say that a land cannot be cleansed.
I got it.
God.
Want me to read it?
God.
Yeah, this is the book of Numbers 35 and 33, and it reads, "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood is defiled the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it."
So ultimately, that's how the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to cleanse our blood, man. All right, by destroying this place completely. You see, because ultimately you have defiled, right, America, all right, with the blood, sweat, and tears of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. You see, and ultimately the judgment for that is that your blood be shed. You see, and we know that's going to be done by way of the destruction of America, and we understand that after destruction, America is never going to be built back up, man.
Right. Right. And that, you know, they'll say, "Well, that's not fair." No, that's the law. A life for a life. You know. And it's a whole lot of Jake. Jake is always outnumbered you. So, you know, you really not going to be able to make that up unless you eliminate it, which is what's going to happen. All right?
We can end with this.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
Nah, that's all I got. You got
All right. Yeah. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 21. Chapter 4, verse 21. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shall make thyself naked." So, you know, this is, you know, the land of Uz, you know, modern day. You know, we're here in the Americas. The dwelling place that Edom has in as far as rulership, you know, that he's actually stolen, and this is their kingdom, you know. So of course live it up, you know, because everything in which you have done and will continue to do, you know, because we still have some things that you're planning until Yahweh Shah returns. You know, you're going to pay for it. You know, so that's the thing in which the elect has hope in. You know, regardless of whatever you decide to do unto our people, Yahweh Shai is going to eventually, you know, recompense you for everything that you've done, and we're going to fare well in the end. So again, just live it up, you know, as much as you can, because eventually, you know, you're gonna have your servitude. It says the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. And again, we're going through a transition, you know, phase. You know, now Esau is being exposed, and as Esau is being exposed, the elect is actually, as more information is being shown, they're now actually able to see, you know, who the wicked is, and it's becoming more and more evident, you know. And the prophecies that Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is going to reign true, you know, in the end. Just all the things in which the Lord, the book has said, the men has, you know, starting with our head apostles, the elders, bishops, have been preaching and teaching, is coming to life. You know, and so we know that we're at the end. You know, better is the end of the thing than the beginning, right? And the patient in spirit than forget the second part of that right now. Can somebody grab it real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 8. It says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit.
Right. So when we first came in, you know, when we were first brought into slavery, when the natives were here in the Americas, at the beginning of Esau's coming over and ruling, that was a painful time. You know, and we're looking back on history and seeing all the things in which we've gone through as a people. But in the end, the Lord has given us the Spirit. You know, He's showing that He's dealing with us. You know, and He's given us Yahweh Shai. You know, so now we're actually about to start, you know, something special. You know, in the spirit of Yahweh Shai. So we've gone through our punishment, and it's almost over. He says, this is the punishment of thine iniquities accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away in captivity. So this is it.
Yep.
All the things that we got to go through, you know, we still got, you know, the straits, you know, this difficulty. You know, it says, with great tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom. But, you know, one thing that I learned, you know, in the world, you know, they would say pain is temporary.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And so, like Yahweh Shai said, you know, like the scriptures say, this is but a light affliction. And yet, you know, we say it, and we know that it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But we know that, you know, we'll get through all things, you know, through the spirit of Yahweh Shai, you know, who strengthens us, right? Roughly paraphrasing. And he says, he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So that's what's happening right now.
Yep.
And you're going to be visited, and you are being visited, right? We see the storms, and we see the fires, the whirlwinds, the chariots being shown. And pretty soon, you know, he's going to bring forth complete destruction. I don't know if you guys had anything else.
Yeah, I had something just to back you. You was saying, you know, hey, they're gonna have to serve us, and you know, it's the choice. You really don't have a choice, Esau. You know, but the scriptures say, because, like you said, in Obadiah 1:18, ultimately you're gonna be removed from the face of the earth. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 12, and it reads, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Utterly. That means nothing remaining. Desolate. Gone. Vanished. Okay? You will no longer be around. Alright? That's going to happen anyway at the end of the slavery. But here again, those who will not serve, you just bring that judgment on a whole lot quicker.
Because, and to the point of that is because he's created to not ever do right.
Yeah.
Right? It says, can a leopard change his spots? You know.
Can you bring a clean thing out of an unclean.
Right.
Yeah.
So eventually, that nation. This is a nation that's going to be habitually disobedient to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Whereas it tells us in the scriptures that the other nations, they're going to be beaten with the rod, put into their place, but eventually they'll be happy that they have a rulership like Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but not Esau either.
Yeah.
He will never be right. He will never get right. So eventually you have to get the cancer out of the system.
Yep.
And a lot of time chemo's like fire, burning it, out of the system. So eventually that's what Yahushua is going to do.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, exhorting of some sort to the elect body of true believers. Before we end, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.